You may think that when it comes to deadly and super risky bioweapon programs in the Alien universe, it's only Weyland-Yutani that should be held responsible. However, there's several other players in the Alien universe, and most of these want to do some weird shit or another. And that includes the United Americas, the interstellar human superpower formed by North, Central, and South America. So the UA built the biodrones as a part of this covert bioweapons program called Project Lifeforce, with the intent of producing a new race of xenomorphs that would serve humanity and be loyal to us instead of their kind. Needless to say, the scientists involved in Project Lifeforce forgot that these creatures are not plants that you can just tweak the DNA of to create a better yield. These are nature's fiercest beasts, and there's just so much about them that we would never understand. And in this video, we're going to talk about everything there is to explore about biodrones. But before I begin, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Now let's begin. So over time, the United Americas acquired the xenomorph specimens through various means and sources. And following this, they joined the rat race to produce this loyal and obedient bioweapon out of the xenomorphs under Project Lifeforce. But this was no easy feat to achieve, and on top of that, there was the question of keeping in check the population of the xenomorphs. I mean, the moment one slacked and let them breed without some sort of control, all hell would break loose on humanity. The project was spearheaded by Dr. N.L. Babak, who led a team of other xenomorph experts and scientists. And together, these guys managed to rearrange the genetic code of the xenomorphs. After several months of hardcore experiments and genetic tweaking and splicing, they created a strain that more or less served their purpose. You see, this new strain came with the 2-pronged advantage. First, the drones from this strain did not evolve or molt into the next caste of xenomorphs, such as the Praetorian or a Queen. And secondly, these new drones would automatically die after about 6 days from their birth. This meant that the UA could deploy the new bioweapons in the enemy territory or the target area, following which, the bioweaponized drones would wipe the target and simply die before leading to any kind of infestation or hive building. Now, all of this sounds pretty perfect and desirable, right? Well, that's what the UA thought, but they couldn't even invest just a couple brain cells to stop and think that it all seems too good to be true. Yep, so let's find out what happened next. So as I was saying, the scientists, including N.L. Babak, did not pay a lot of attention to all the aspects of the xenomorphs, and that's why not all the undesirable traits of the creatures were removed. One of the most significant traits was the ability of a xenomorph to perform something called egg morphing or ovomorphing. And I'm guessing Babak would have taken care of it had he watched the deleted scenes video we did on Ridley Scott's original movie. Alas, Babak didn't. But hey, you're here, and if you don't know what egg morphing is, let me explain. The Alien films each add something new to the biology of the creatures, and ovomorphing is by far one of the strangest and most unsettling traits, but it never made it to the original cut of Alien, and exists today only as a deleted scene. Now, this scene has Ripley moving through the Nostromo with her flamethrower, while she's being hunted by the lone xenomorph that had already slaughtered most of her crew. When she enters the storage hold, she finds the walls coated with a resin-like secretion, thick and hardened into grotesque shapes. At first, it looks like the monster's usual lair decoration, but a closer look reveals that the resin has trapped her colleagues Dallas and Brent. Dallas was still alive, albeit barely, and begs her to put him out of his misery. Brett is worse off. His corpse has already been reshaped into something new, almost fully encased in what looks like an alien egg. Ripley, realizing Dallas is on the same path, uses the flamethrower. She ends both of their lives before the process completes, torching the resin and cutting short whatever horror the xenomorph had started. Of course, Dallas had to beg her to end his life, as there was nothing but more pain if he had to stay alive. But this whole thing was a huge clue about the monster's reproductive cycle. Ridley Scott cut it to keep the pacing of the film's final act tight, but the implications were too great to ignore. The process on display is called egg morphing, and it might be one of the darkest reproductive strategies ever committed to film. When a xenomorph drone finds itself isolated, away from a queen in a hive, instinct drives it to improvise. A queen can lay eggs, a drone cannot. But survival demands continuity, so the drone finds another way. It captures a victim and traps them in resin secreted from its body, most often from the barbed tail. The resin isn't inert glue. It contains enzymes and hormones that rewrite the host's flesh. Over a day or so, the person ceases to resemble anything human and slowly reshapes into an ovomorph. By the time the transformation finishes, a facehugger waits inside. A cocooned host has almost no chance of escape. Even if freed, the changes are irreversible. The body isn't just immobilized, but chemically converted. In the cutscene, Dallas knows this and begs Ripley to end it. Brett already demonstrates the end stage because we can clearly see that the man is gone. His body turned into an egg, ready to release a parasite. It reframes the creature not as a simple predator, but as a self-sustaining parasite that will not allow its line to end. If cut off from the hive, the drone manufactures continuity through its victim. This tactic also addresses a potential weakness in the species. Without a queen, reproduction should halt. Egg morphing fills that gap. Though slower and less efficient, it ensures survival. Some have speculated that such eggs even carry a special kind of facehugger, one capable of producing a new queen, which would then restore the hive hierarchy. And you know what? That would make evolutionary sense because the drone cannot lead a hive, but it can engineer the conditions for leadership to return. So basically, this whole process is a stopgap, a survival fallback. Now, coming back to our topic at hand, we learned that the biodrones were becoming adept at the whole ovomorphing thing, and more importantly, most of them were forgetting to die after 6 days. This meant that the biodrones not only had new hosts and ovomorphs, but they also lived long enough to build an entire hive. So, the sites that the United Americas targeted actually became breeding grounds and xenomorph hives, and something needed to be done to stop the mess. In 2184, Corinth Colony on KOI 571.02 became the testing ground for 2 nightmares at once. The Union of Progressive Peoples had to contend with a swarm of biodrones tearing through the settlement, and their answer was to seed the population with neomorph spores. On paper, it gave them an instant army. In practice, the neomorphs barely slowed the invaders before being cut apart. The response escalated into a nuclear strike that erased the colony. Even then, one biodrone slipped through the fire and made its way to the Oregon testing facility. There it began the slow, patient work of building a hive. Cocooning staff for ovomorph transformation. The personnel who survived long enough to describe it called the creature Bolshoi. 3 years later, biodrones reappeared under much bigger stakes. General Delilah Vaughn used them as part of a coup plot, intending to eliminate Joint Chiefs of the United Americas and consolidate control of the military. The plan moved through the USS Alexiers, which carried the creature to LV-846. Containment failed in predictable fashion. The biodrones tore through the ship's crew, then spread across the moon after the vessel went down. From there, they breached the Pushan Conference and Business Complex, where a peace summit was underway. The slaughter that followed ended with the Joint Chiefs and numerous dignitaries dead, the exact outcome Vaughn had counted on, though without the control she'd imagined she'd have afterward. The outbreak's end came not from military response, but from another horror already in transit. Survivors from BG-791 arrived on LV-895 carrying Dr. Martin Fowler, a Weyland-Yutani researcher. Fowler carried inside him an embryonic queen, which erupted once the group reached the center. The queen grew quickly and began to tear through the biodrones, asserting dominance the way the species always does, through sheer violence. What the UPP spores and Vaughn's scheming failed to achieve, the queen accomplished in days. She cut off the biodrone advance and reclaimed the ground for her own brood. Taken together, the events show just how little control humans had over the creatures they try to weaponize. The UPP gambled on neomorphs and lost. Vaughn gambled on biodrones and lost even more spectacularly. Weyland-Yutani didn't have to gamble at all. Its queen simply emerged, did what queens do, and reset the balance of power without orders or strategy. Whether through hive instinct or raw survival drive, the xenomorphs remain the only real winners in these contests, while human institutions leave trails of dead colonies, sabotaged peace talks, and wasted soldiers in their wake. So yeah, the biodrones were these completely identical versions of regular xenomorph drones, and they had the very same behavior and affinity to violence. Just that they were hostile towards the naturally born xenomorphs, who also reacted with hostility towards the biodrones. If there's anything else that you'd like for us to explore, feel free to let us know. You know where to leave the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can bring you more marvelous videos.